Welcome into Northern Astrology. My name is Gracey, your astrologer today. We are going to be yapping about all things sports astrology. I have been on a wild ride learning about the Kansas City Chiefs and getting to kind of follow along their process, their chart, all of it within the last few seasons has been really enlightening. And I have learned so much following along with these games. So we're back. It's football season and it's time to get into the swing of things. And last week's game was definitely something that we could see coming from a mile away if we looked at the astrology of it all. And I think that we saw quite a few collisions, quite a few moments of outrage and moments of refs really getting underneath people's skin, as well as teams kind of falling apart. So I have a different bit of an outlook to kind of see and manipulate my answers with, like I have enough information to inform myself. I shouldn't say manipulate just because it's a negative connotation of like I'm manipulating numbers to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. What I'm doing is essentially brand new from what I understand. There are not many people that are forward facing with their sports astrology predictions. Some people hide behind like little monikers, or they only do like a little preview thing or a tweet or a post or whatever it is about their predictions. But I want to start doing more live shows just to show that astrology is not a bunch of bullshit made up by people who just want to seem woo-woo about life. It is absolutely an ancient art form and can be used for so many things. I think people can get a little bit of a negative connotation with astrology simply because there's been so many people over the years, decades, centuries, millennias that we could look at and be like, okay, were they a little bit of a scam artist? One that's recently popping up a lot lately is the psychic Sylvia Brown. People are posting all of her unhinged type of comments that she kind of like used her spirituality and her abilities and her gifts and weaponize them. And that's exactly what we don't want to be seeing here in the year 2025 as we know it. Who knows what year it actually is? Who knows where in time we actually are, right? So my whole job is to break down what I see, talk about the symbols, which if you are not aware, I use a certain set of symbols called the Sapien symbols that help me see more into a chart, and that is through the degrees. So if you use whole sign, that's awesome. And I know that there's so much of whole sign that can be used for so many different reasons, and people have their reasons for choosing. I use Placidus simply because I am a degree-based astrologer, so every single degree and every single house where that degree starts or where that house starts by the degree is very important for my astrology work. So I'm going to share a lot about that today. This is the book that I use. It's called 360 Degrees of Wisdom by the one and only Linda Hill. And you can see that this is a very tarnished copy. We have used this copy a lot. And by being able to share the tools and stuff that I use for astrology, it helps me feel like, hey, I'm informing people, and a lot of my mission here in this lifetime is to help share the interesting things I learn and hope that other people find them interesting and utilize them for themselves. So the Sapien symbols are an ancient group of symbols that are channeled with each and every degree of the zodiac. So for every degree from 1 through 30, because if you understand mathematics and you understand why things are rounded up, you also probably understand that if you have a degree at 22 degrees, 59 minutes, Virgo, we're going to be rounding that one up to 23 degrees Virgo. But because I have developed my own style of using these symbols, I decided to write a book about the Sapien symbols, which you can find on my website for free. It talks about the 360 Degrees of Wisdom book, the ebook, and the website. This is available, like I said, on my website for free. And then it talks about each and every degree. So the exact degree is what I refer to as the karmic degree. The rounded up degree, which most people look at just that one, is the truth degree. And then the degree after the rounded up degree is the solution degree. So there's a lot of steps, a lot of different things that you can use in the Sabian symbols and with astrology. Like I was just reading a book that was published in the 1980s, and it's really not that old. I read books from the 1880s and 1780s all the time. It's fine. There's so much about astrology that if you're trying to master it all in one lifetime, I think you're going to be disappointed. Even if you start at the age of 0, it's going to be something that can take over your life and get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, it's all connected. Everything is connected. We are all one. And that's kind of the point, right? Like we're kind of trying to show you as astrologers that everything is connected. So hating something or feeling anger towards something is just not it at all. Another thing that I've created, because I've created many things, is my Northern magazine. And I want to read this from the Northern magazine because it's one of my favorite things in the world, just because, you know, this is who I am as a person. Let me make sure it's in here. It'd be really funny if I just decided to quote from something that's not actually in here. Yeah, maybe it's not. But it is a Marcus Aurelius quote that I absolutely love. And it's like, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to deal with a bunch of idiots, and they don't mean any harm. They're idiots because they don't know any better. And you have an active choice to make if you want to get mad that somebody's an idiot and in your way, or you just want to simply sit back and love them for being the way that they are and moving forward with life. And it's something that, you know, in this world we could use a little bit more of. I don't think I need to go into the last week of energy in the air. We are in an eclipse window. There is a very serious and stressful energy that is in the air when it is eclipse season, especially in between two eclipses. We had one just last week, and that was at 15 degrees Pisces with a full moon. And now we're going to be having the solar eclipse in Virgo, and that will be at 29 degrees Virgo. Of course, I have it pulled up. Don't worry. It's the partial solar eclipse, and this is from my book, The Astrology of 2025. I included the pictures for the Sabian symbols as well as the Sabian symbols in there. 29 degrees Virgo is a man is gaining secret knowledge from an ancient scroll he is reading. 30 degrees Virgo. Having an urgent task to complete, a man doesn't look to any distractions. And then the solution degree, which is 1 degrees Libra, a butterfly preserved and made perfect with a dart through it. The 1 degree of Virgo is a very telling degree, just because, the 1 degree of Libra is a very telling degree. It is an Aries rule degree if you're working with degree theory as well. And this is very much a time of over perfecting, since there is a massive, shift happening around, I would say, the United States, with not only Pluto being in Aquarius now, not going back to Capricorn, being fully in Aquarius, and all the people in the governments feeling a lot of pressure right now to unite rather than divide the citizens of the United States. There are energies and currents that don't want us to be united and don't want us to realize our connection as humans and don't want us to realize the power of human strength and love. And it's not like some sneaky boogeyman energy. It's just that there is a certain balance in the universe, right? As above, so below. And some people can really feed off of that dark energy. And we see a lot of hatred being spilled to the surface, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blaming. And we really have to go back to that Marcus Aurelius quote: to be at odds with somebody else or to be at war with another person is to be at war with yourself. And the one thing that we can control is our own actions and the things that come out of our mouth and the things that we say and the things that we share. And if you say things like, good, I'm glad that person is dead, that's how you feel about yourself. It's like the projection is super freaking real. And if you don't wake up with a purpose every single day, it's okay. You know, some people wake up and they've just completed their life's work and then they feel empty the next day. And it's because we've been tuned to this like achieving more society. And it can get to the point where you feel completely alone, isolated, like you're the only person that has ever gone through a creative drought or a depression or some sort of like isolating time, like the Hermit card in tarot. You know, there's so much about retreating into that silence and really thinking before you speak. That is the best advice I have with Uranus and Gemini. And thinking before you speak, I have a Gemini moon. It's ruled my chart since I was born during moon hour on a Mars day as a Cancer rising. I'm giving you so much information about like my birth chart to this show. I'm like, oh my gosh, I might as well just pull it up one day and just be like, all right, let's break down my astrology. Knowing that we have so much of this current that goes through our veins. Uranus and Gemini rules hands, lungs, arms, nervous system. Gemini is begging us to understand our mental health is connected to our nervous system, and our nervous system is connected to everything in our body. And by keeping your hands busy all the time, that can be one way to keep your mind distracted. You can stay busy, you can stay actively busy, but at some point in life, you are going to have to be faced with how you feel about things. You're going to feel big waves of emotion. And if you put them off, you might be one of those people that stores up all their emotions throughout the week, but then on a Sunday when it's your football team time to go win, because that means that you win, you end up putting everything you have into this game and all of your emotions are let loose through the outcome of it, right? That can be said with almost anything that we watch topically or is like a superficial type of thing. Like, yes, for most people who are not athletes in the locker room, sports are a very superficial thing. I even saw people who were celebrating a man's death this week say things about how evil sports betting is, but it's okay to celebrate death. I personally believe that all people should have the right to say, feel, think how they must, how they choose, how they are. You know, I'm not trying to change anybody's opinions. I tell people good luck when they have a closed mind, because that's not where we go in life. We don't get anywhere when we have a closed mind and a closed heart. We can't unify as a human race if we are all closed off to the ability or possibility that we might be more than just flesh suits running around trying to achieve things so our parents love us more. Like, as an astrologer, I know the feeling of, wow, am I even doing this for a reason? There's so many astrologers on this planet. Am I even like contributing to anything? Is this even being heard? Is this even being seen? And the more and more I work with astrology, I am convinced and I am more and more vocal about the things that I know and love about this ancient art form, because I truly see the benefit of it. And there are people that do things in ancient ways with ancient methods and are well-versed in things that I have never even heard of in astrology. You know, it's like there's specialists everywhere, and you find what speaks to you. And if you find something that speaks to you, find a specialist in that. If you find that you want to go into Hellenistic astrology, go find a specialist in that. If you find that you want to go into Vedic astrology, go find a specialist in that and learn from them. There's so many ways that we can learn for free. There's so many ways that we can learn with the resources that we're able to afford. There's so many ways that we can be better as human beings. And the biggest one is keeping an open mind. So seeing that people are okay with, you know, a horrible thing happening to a person in broad daylight for all to see, and people who don't want to see that kind of stuff, that are very sensitive to those things, don't want to see it. You know, this world has been very much full of a lack of like gratitude. There's just a very big overarching thing of, we have so much now that our ancestors would have been amazed to have. We have so many things. We have so much access to information and knowledge and ways to be better and get better. So we got to take advantage of them. And astrology just happens to be one of them. So rant over. But with this eclipse season reminder, I just wanted to like remind people that being a human is, you know, having compassion towards others and not always agreeing with them, there are family members of mine that I do not agree with anything at all. I don't really feel that I would ever have any sort of beneficial conversation with them. And I just know that. So I keep to myself. And I don't hate them for it. I simply just know that is not a place that I want to spend my time and energy around. So I feel as though we can all exist. I feel as though we are more united when we are operating from love, when we are operating from a place of knowing that there's nothing to be afraid of and that we are all here with divine timing. But that's a lot sometimes. So instead, I just write about astrology. I share blogs. I post tweets. I make some posts on Instagram, and I just write a lot in my magazine. We have another one coming up on September 22nd. That will be a magazine that I have been pouring myself into, as well as, building what I want to say with the current climate. A lot of the times when I'm writing, I'll be really excited to write about the things that I was wanting to write about then. And then it's like 2 months later and I'm writing this magazine without including some information or current energy happening. So I'm very much excited to share that with you all. Outside of my astrology takes, I don't really share much. I'm a private person. So when I do share things like, about my dad's surgery going well this last week and the things that I'm excited about, or all the victories and exciting things that I have to share in my astrology practice, it's like, that's what I'm sharing. I'm going to keep sharing that. You're not going to find me turning to political content or trying to awaken the masses. I think we all go through that. At a certain point. You can't be a spiritualist without wanting others to know better, do better, and be able to be better with you. And being somebody that can share information and shake people up, it's not an easy task, and it's not for the faint of heart. And I admire people whose dedication to sharing information that might upset or disrupt people. By all means, it's a free country here in the United States, and I hope it continues to be that way. So I look forward to people sharing more of what they're interested in, whether it's sports astrology, whether it's any other type of astrology. I'm just over here drawing a blank on that one. Maybe I'll have some more coffee. Yeah, coffee is the answer to things. I don't usually drink coffee. This has been a very long week, and I'm looking forward to being able to relax on the couch and watch this game and enjoy some entertaining football. So I am going to go ahead and jump into the game. I know that we have talked a lot about the current energies, current climate, how we can be better as people, and the eclipse happening. This next eclipse is happening exact my IC and obviously exactly opposite my MC. And Saturn's right there opposing this eclipse. So I just have a lot of, well wishes to send people. Take care of your joints, take care of your skin, take care of your knees. I'm currently nursing mine back to health. Excuse me, my mic cut out there. And it's definitely a process. So, Godspeed to everyone trying to be better right now during this climate. It's not easy. So we are going to go into sports astrology, which is the name of this show, and what I'm doing here, right? Like, we're not just here to talk or yap about my feelings on current world happenings, although it's my show. I get to do what I want. I feel like I should just have my chart up anyways, so when I start talking and you're like, why is she like this? You can be like, oh yeah, it's because she's an Aries sun ruled by an exalted Mars. So exalted sun ruled by an exalted Mars. You can't tell me what to do. It's very difficult. We are looking at the Eagles at the Chiefs today because I cover all things Kansas City Chiefs, and that is what I do. And any other game is probably pretty boring because I'm way more dialed in on the Chiefs. I always have been. That's one thing I wanted to share for today. I found the picture that I was talking about last week. This is from the NFL experience at some automotive place here in Kansas City. But there I am, number 93, which was not an active player at the time. So that made it real easy to do the little face thing. I love these little exhibits from the 90s and early 2000s where you just like part of your childhood experience is getting your picture taken with your head on one thing and a different person's body. So I have JJ Burden's autograph over here, and somebody else that I have no idea who their number is. But if you recognize that signature, it's an A and a D, I think. Who knows? But I've been a Chiefs fan forever. That was when I was like 6. So I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to be accused of being a bandwagon fan after all the lore that I've shared. But if you are looking for more of that and you don't know anything about me, go over to northernastrology.com. Check out the musings. I share all about my Chiefs journey and a couple of them in my blog post. I call it my musings just because blog is just so archaic of a word. Even when people are like, I vlog, I'm like, oh, okay, what? Create content, I guess that's the new one. But we are looking at the Kansas City Chiefs first home game. We have learned a lot about the game charts over the last couple of years. The first thing I always look at is the rising sign, as it is the chart ruler. We're looking at a 4-degree Capricorn rising. Last year, when we saw Capricorn risings, there ended up being broken bones. I'm not thrilled with this being the connection, but Capricorn does roll over the bones, skin, knees, like we were talking about earlier. The skeletal system, the infrastructure of the largest organ on your body, your skin. And Capricorn also happens to be at home in the 10th house. So having a chart start at that Capricorn rising of 4 degrees, which is a Cancer degree, we'll look at that in the Sapien symbols. Very much an emotionally impactful game. This is going to be a game of discipline, as Saturn is very much showing up in sports astrology charts as discipline and do you have what it takes to get the job done energy. We happen to have Saturn at 29 degrees Pisces in the 3rd house. And that indicates to me that this is going to be a game of mental discipline overall. So hopefully no broken bones today, right? Like I think the Chiefs have started off with enough after Xavier Worthy's injury last time. This is going to be a very fun game. It could be a transformational game, setting the tone for the rest of the season. Obviously for the Chiefs being at home, going up against the Eagles, which they lost to in the Super Bowl recently in February. So I think to say that they have a little bit of, not bad blood, but a little bit of a score to settle, at least on the Chiefs end, would be an understatement. Of course, Jalen Hurts wants to come out and dominate. He's going to always show up as that Cancer Mars, like getting back at somebody energy, which I love. But since this game is kicking off at 3:25, we've got that packed 3rd house. I was about to say 4th house. We got that packed 3rd house, and then we go into the 4th house, which represents the home team, and it's kind of like empty, malleable. So we'll see how the charts show up with the individual teams, of course. But looking at this game, I do think it's going to be a battle of mental toughness. It's going to be a battle of who's actually put in that work to transform the exhaustion, the tired feet, the Pisces ruling the feet and 29 degrees of any zodiac sign being known as the anoretic sign, which a personal chart, like a birth chart, I do think it's a very radical energy. I think it's a breath of fresh air. It's here to switch things up and change things and blaze a new trail and start a new path. That's very much what 29 degree energy gives to me whenever I read a chart. Very familiar with it. Like I said, my Pisces MC at 29 degrees is very loud in my chart. I cannot be tamed. I cannot be told what to do. It is what it is. There's a lot of that energy today in that 3rd house. So communication wise for the Chiefs, I definitely think it was looking pretty spicy last week with so many people calling each other out. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and go into some game charts. So we're going to look at Philadelphia Eagles first, just because I want to. And that's what we get to do here on my show. I get to do what I want. And the first thing that we see in the 1st house of this game for the Eagles is their moon at 2 degrees Aquarius. Once again, I am using a noon chart for the game. Their very first announcing day that they were going to be forming an NFL team. I use a noon chart, and that is what I did for the Chiefs as well as the Eagles. So looking at this chart, it is a noon chart cast against the actual game chart that will be kicking off today at 3:25. I was alluding to something with a packed third house, but I don't remember what it was, so we'll just get there when we get there. But it made sense at the time. Yay. The moon being conjunct Pluto, it's going to be an emotionally transformative game for the Eagles, to say the least. I don't think I need astrology to tell you that one, going into Arrowhead, which is a very hostile territory, but not quite hostile like Philadelphia hostile. So we'll just see. We'll see how this works. But fans are frustrated. The Chiefs, at least. I know that they were expecting to just have this dominance down in Brazil. Didn't quite happen, and some people are mad. That's just life. Some people are going to be mad. The Saturn in the second house, which I look at the second house to talk about the pace of the game. Saturn, the North Node, and Pallas Athena there for the Eagles, with the North Node and, the North Node and Pisces for the game today. I do think the person or the team that is able to remind each other of flow and going against the clock is going to be very difficult. Trying to race the clock, trying to control the clock. You literally have to work on time management when you have a Saturn ruled second house, which is the pace of the game. So having Saturn in there for Philadelphia means that maybe they have the time management side thing on their side. The North Node there, they could be obsessed with the outcome, just because, there is so much riding on the NFL season for these two teams this year. The Eagles are hungry for more Super Bowl appearances. They're a young and very talented team, and they're North Node being at 29 degrees once again. That's that new path, radical, whatever it is of whatever sign that you see that 29 degrees in. And in Aquarius, I just so happen to have that here, a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. So been a lot of goo years for Philly. There's been a lot of down years for Philly. They've definitely stepped up a lot in the last few years and shown total dominance. Jalen Hurts has been a huge part of that. So like I said, there's definitely a lot of time emphasis on controlling time and working with time for the Eagles going into today's game. Going into their third house, that is a vertex and part of fortune on a noon chart, so not really relevant. There is Ceres, Sedna, and Uranus there, all in that third house for the Eagles. Ceres being more of the nurturing and the caretaker, how you show up and take care of yourself. So taking care of your mental health is very loud with this team, and it's very important for today's game, and that'll be on display for sure. Uranus in Aries there, conjunct Chiron. The sudden changes and the sudden mental changes could be very much showing a weakness of the Eagles and their inability to adapt, or their fiery nature or mental hot-headedness could very much flip the switch or make or break the game today. So definitely going to be interested to see how that shows up in this chart. Going into the fourth house, like I said, that is empty for both the game and the Eagles going into this game. So interesting to see that. That kind of shows to me that the fourth house is open to the home team, and it's in a way that whatever energy they bring is what's going to be the loudest for today. So going into that fifth house, today we have Uranus conjunct the Eagles, Chiron, and also White Moon Lilith there in the fifth house. So seeing that Uranus and Chiron conjunction, hands are going to be really important. So they might have drop balls, or they might have problems holding on to the ball, or hands are just going to be something that they have to get super creative with, or they might get called out a lot on that. Maybe it's holding, maybe it's pass interference. Who knows how that's going to show up. Having Uranus in the fifth house also means the refs are going to be all over the place. So you heard it here first. Nothing's changing. The Chiefs are still going to be probably one of the largest penalized teams. And also the people playing against them, they could get some wild calls. We don't know. Uranus in the fifth house, it can be anything. It's very much an electric, sudden shock or change of energy. It can be a new way of doing things, a radical new way of doing things, a radical new approach. So we could see possibly a rule being changed with this game, or possibly something being questioned. Like, is this an outdated way to do it? So we'll see. Very interesting. Going into the sixth house where the moon in Gemini is today. The moon in Gemini being in the later degrees of Gemini, when I looked at the Chiefs astrology, it's very much a bonus and a push for them. So I do think that this is going to be a little bit better for the Chiefs' physical health. And obviously, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm still talking about the Eagles chart. With Black Moon Lilith there at 26 degrees Gemini, maybe they learned some lessons in physical health or keeping their hands to themselves today with the Eagles. The Eagles do have Sun in Cancer conjunct Jupiter, as well as their Pluto in Cancer conjunct Jupiter today. So I do think that that's interesting to see. I think it's really interesting to see Jupiter and Sun aspects, and if that's going to amplify or give them kind of a blindness to today's game. Maybe they go in very confident and it's a mental thing. Once again, I really do think that the Chiefs are going to get to them mentally more than anything. Going into that Leo Venus there, conjunct Mercury in the game's seventh house. I think they're going to be very passionate, very loud, very outspoken, very vocal today. They're going to let all of their emotions hang out. So if they lose, they're going to be pretty vocal about it. They're going to be pretty showy about their win as well. So it's going to be a lot of lion-like energy, especially with that loud protecting what is theirs. You know, they're coming off of this Super Bowl win against the Chiefs, and that was the last time they really matched up. Kansas City and Philadelphia fans are both having their own personal Super Bowl, with Jason Kelsey being in Kansas City, like hosting a tailgate. So I'm sure that's going to be a loud crowd drawer, and it's going to be like a total fun game today. And I think it's going to be a lot less personal and a lot more fun on the field. Super Bowls are always personal. Regular season is where you form the foundation and develop the skills against your opponent. You know, the fact that we get to play them, you know, second game in the year, and we get to see how we've done to adjust to their team and how they've done to adjust to us, is going to be pretty magical. So I look forward to this game either way, because I'm going to be learning a lot. But I do think that Philadelphia is going to show out loudly. Win or lose, they're going to be big emotional presences today. The reason I say that is also because the vertex is in Leo, and that is usually spiritual doors opening for people, and the form of a gift in a person can come through that vertex. And so I have a vertex in Sagittarius in my fifth house, and I love horses so much that they're like the animal that I love more than anything else on this planet. And then it's whales, because I can't just like have a whale in my backyard. So it'd be hard to develop a personal relationship with whales like I have horses. Gotta love it. All right. So looking into this chart, we're going into, like I said, that vertex in the eighth house, also Venus in the eighth house today. I think Venus is going to be helping out the sports betting people of this world. So this will be a good game to bet. There'll be lots of action going on and lots of things to be betting on. The South Node and Sun and Mercury all being that little cluster. It's a lot of feelings from the past. And yeah, you know, the South Node, if you dumb it down to like, oh, it's the past, it's your past lifetimes, it's also what you're most comfortable with. It's also what you're most familiar with. You know, my South Node is in Virgo, and it's conjunct my IC. I very much feel like I'm in a medical profession last lifetime, and I had this ridiculous knowledge of medical things and like what to do in situations that I shouldn't know, like how to like help people after things have happened, or like I don't have any medical qualifications, I'll put it that way, outside of injuring myself, that I should know all this information of how to take care of people. I have like inserted myself in chaotic and wild situations that needed medical assistance, and I was not a doctor, and luckily everyone that was involved was okay. And I've just been like one of those people that has this call to service and to like help others. But that was when I was also like not being able to help myself and not put those same practices into place for myself. I was always able to tell other people how to be healthy, but not actually take that out in practical application for myself. And so the last few years, I've been able to pull back that energy from myself and know that my South Node doesn't have to keep me trapped in this loop of service and duty and responsibility to others when I need to pour that into my physical health and my physical body. So that's been a super fun undertaking to understand. So the South Node is not just your past and your past lifetimes, although it can be. My South Node is on my IC. You don't think that connects? It's 6 degrees away from each other. It's very much connected. So there's times where people, I feel like lately people in the astrology space just want to hear themselves talking. You know, I could easily fall into that when I do all these sports astrology shows, but at the same time, I'm sharing all this information with you guys in order to spread more joy, spread more love, spread more insight, spread more knowledge, spread more information of any sort that I could possibly share. Like literally, I want to read a topic and dive into it a little bit and then go share information about it with people that I think would find it interesting. That's my way of showing people that I care about them, right? And learning how to do that for myself and being like, oh, just pour that back into you. That's a lot of what that South Node is. And I am in my South Node return, or my nodal return in general. So I'm very much learning these things as I go and not exhausting myself doing for others that I'm not even doing for me. What a fun lesson to learn as the oldest and only child of my insane earth sign parents. The South Node here for the Eagles, though, if we want to jump back into current times and what we are actually talking about, is right there at 29 degrees Leo. And that is connecting a little bit with Venus today. So 29 degrees Leo is all about this mermaid waiting on a rocky shore for her prince and her immortal knight in shining armor to come save her and whisk her away. It's very much about just wanting to be saved. And, you know, getting out of that mentality for the Eagles, I think has been really amazing. Like with Doug Peterson, I know that they had a big monumental personality that came in and kind of switched things up, but he was also just recently with Andy Reid, you know, having Andy Reid face off against his old team, the Eagles. This is all very much familiar territory. So I do think that with the South Node conjunct Neptune as well as exact the Jupiter for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of they're comfortable in this space. Most people would be terrified of Arrowhead. I think the Eagles are just like, hey, we're on a mission today, and that's what we're here to focus on. Going into the 9th house, which is what I use to show the away team, is where we're going to find the Eagles' Mars at 0 degrees Libra. So yes, they are going through their Mars return, even though Mars is further down into Libra at 25 degrees today. The part of fortune for today's game is in Libra, which I think means a big game for Travis Kelce, as his sun and Mars are right around that 10 degrees Libra. So, you know, if the Eagles Mars was closer to that part of fortune, I would say today is going to be Eagles owned, driven, and we're just all watching everything else. You know, but today's game is going to be very, very, very physical. We do have Mars right there on the MC. As you can tell, that arrow pointing to 27 degrees Libra is the MC or the midhaven, which is where you can find the public image, the kind of the public energy, the seasoning for the game, what the public is going to give off energy wise, and also the authority side of the game. Empty for both the game and the Eagles. So we're going to jump into the 11th house, which has Juno and Vesta. The 11th house, the traveling fans, that 0 degrees Vesta in Sagittarius in the 11th house. I think the hearth and the, you know, the undercurrent for today's game is going to be the fans, whether it's the away fans like that 0 degrees Sagittarius suggests, or it's for the home team fans, you know, filling up the stadium with that loudness and that energy and that support for our team really does make a difference. Even though I felt like Sao Paulo's game was like a home game for the Chiefs, it was amazing to see so many people just showing up, and that's what Chiefs Kingdom is all about, is showing up all over the world. And if you watch the Kingdom documentary, you would know that Lamar Hunt, the OG of the Chiefs ownership, was adamant about the Chiefs being an international brand. So that's what their goal was. Not to talk about the Chiefs anymore, going through the Eagles. I do think the Eagles have a strong chance today going into this game, just because of everything that they have been putting forth energy wise for this Jupiter and Cancer transit. I do think that's going to be boosting their sun for quite a bit of time this season, and that's going to be a good thing. You know, that 22-degree Pluto conjunct their sun as well as Vesta in the seventh house. It is up to them to keep that fire going and to keep that energy alive. And, you know, one thing that Cancer placements can do is use a rivalry or a disagreement or, you know, not liking someone, and they can feed off that for fucking decades, honestly. So using that fire within to overcome the opponent, which the seventh house is all about the others and what you attract. And for the Eagles today, they got that Sun, Vesta, Pluto, Venus, and Mercury all in the seventh house. So I do think that they show up very well and very loudly today. Going into the Chiefs, here they are. You guys still want to see me, right? I'm just like, I've been hiding behind this black bar. Go ahead and take a look at the chart. There it is. Go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to drink some coffee and let you guys see what that looks like. All right. So you guys had a chance to look at the chart. We are going to jump right in, seeming how I've already broken down a little bit about the game so far. And then if you're jumping in brand new, hi, I'm Gracey. I'm breaking down the sports astrology each week with the Kansas City Chiefs, my hometown team that I love dearly. So yeah, it's not just me being biased because, you know, I'm a Chiefs fan. I do look at all sides, I promise. Now we're going into the home team with their first house showing up as their south node right there in the first house, showing that this is kind of what I would say, a game that they're feeling a little bit comfortable with, a little bit safe with, knowing that this is in their home turf. Is this an opponent that you can feel safe with? Absolutely not. But is the experience and how they show up going to be something that they're comfortable with? Yes. Something that they can use to their advantage? Yes. Capricorn, as much as it is about achieving and climbing to the next height, it's also about knowing when to dive back in and start over again. And this, to me, shows a south node in the first house, knowing when to start over again, knowing when to go back to square one, knowing when you need to regroup. There's been some disastrous play calling. I don't know what's going on with the Chiefs completely, but there's been a lot of interesting play calling as well as people not paying attention. So this is a great time to get back to the basics. Going into the second house, which we talked about, determining the pace of the game, that being Saturn ruled, and Saturn being in the third house today, station retrograde. I do think that this is about a lot of the discipline and the commitments that they have. You know, we'll show the tri-wheel in a little bit, showing the Chiefs and the Eagles synastry as well as today's game. But knowing that this is a lot of the discipline that they've worked through, that they know in their, I feel like the back of their hand at this point. The Chiefs are very much getting into understanding what it takes to be at the top consistently year after year. And that's not something that they've always been. That's not something that they've always been able to do, to produce, to achieve. So having that 22-degree Aquarius Saturn right there in the second house, I think that the killer be killed energy is very loud today. The Chiefs starting off 0-2 in the fans' eyes would be like an absolute disaster. So knowing that there's so much riding on this for the season to feel a little bit better, obviously they got to show up. The North Node is slowly getting closer and closer towards their Chiron and Pisces, which is going to be an interesting type of energy moving forward. There's a lot of focus on foot injuries with that placement, and there's also a lot of focus on circulatory system issues. So making sure that you literally feel safe in your body and you are firing on all cylinders is key for the Chiefs this season. So feet, ankles, circulatory system with that, not circulatory system with Pisces, but circulatory system with the Saturn in Aquarius, and Pisces being the grounding base, the feet. Pisces rules over the feet and toes. And it's very much something along the lines of protecting them and keeping them healthy. So going into that third house, we see that Aries Jupiter in the third house, loosely conjunct Neptune retrograde and Ceres retrograde, as well as loosely conjunct Saturn as well as Chiron there in that third house. So the third house today is very much where we see the game being make or break for the communication side of things, since Saturn is in the third house and Saturn is the chart ruler for today's game. And seeing Jupiter in there for the Chiefs, last week I was like, okay, Jupiter in Aries in the 12th house, they ended up making childish mistakes. So not paying attention to where they're supposed to be covered, explosive argumentative energy, their toughness not really being there. 74, you got to get it together. Travis Kelce yelling at you. You got a Libra yelling at you in public on an international stage. That's pretty wild. To push a Libra that far is you've done something wrong, right? So 74, get it together. A lot of things that are just coming down to mental error and not being held accountable there. So a lot of that, not that I know what's going on in the games or the locker rooms, right? I just happen to live with and be fully in love with someone that does have connections to the team. And I'm like, if everyone's on lockdown and they're so focused this week on making sure whatever happened in Sao Paulo doesn't happen again in Kansas City or really anywhere in the world is key. So, the boys go straight home and they go straight to work, and that's that. It's incredible to be able to follow along with the astrology things, because I do feel like you can kind of get and feel like where the team is as a collective because of their chart. So it's been entertaining. Going into that fourth house, I do see the Chiefs being victorious today, mostly because that fourth house, Chiefs have Venus there. And last week we saw, as Jess Groove pointed out, the benefit being in the fourth house for the home team, meaning the Chargers did have that advantage. So, I definitely said that when we were looking at the charts, like, hey, Venus being in here does look like the fourth house is showing up as the home team again. And it does look like it could be beneficial to the Chargers over the Chiefs. And there was that little moment there, but we live and we learn, and I think it's really, really cool to see how these things line up. So we are learning together as we go. The only thing I don't tolerate on my channel or on my show is just like people jumping in and being like, well, this person said that this is going to happen on this date, and because they predicted da 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 and the numerology of blah 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 blah. I'm like, all right, so I'm going to go back to astrology now. Thanks so much for the interruption. But I love people who are also learning about astrology or learning how to predict these games, just like me, using what we do know about astrology and our own intuition. And that's, women having the ability to have such strong intuition and predict things and see the future. And really anyone has that ability, but women happen to be ruled by the moon, and our intuition is incredible. So don't lie to women, please. We will know. But anyone has the ability to be more psychic and to slow down and to tune in and to let your visions take you where they may. And sometimes people are taken too far by those visions. sometimes those visions can be clouded by personal narrative. There's just so much about what we have at our fingertips as human beings to tap into and what we don't know. Like, we don't know so many different things about this universe, and we're discovering new things all the time. So why not astrology? Why is Saturn the ruler over this chart? If you go to the 9 o'clock position on the chart, where the rising sign always is, that is Capricorn rising. So I'm circling it with my mouse like it's going to do anything, but like, once again, I don't have a pointer. I'm going to figure it out one day. And so that, since Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, that is the ruler of the chart. Going into that 6th house the 5th house, we didn't even go to the 5th house. Going into that 5th house for the Chiefs, that Mercury retrograde and Moon conjunction, as well as their Gemini Sun conjunct Uranus. This is going to be a wild season for the Chiefs no matter what. With Uranus conjunct their Sun, it's just like, hey, things can change at a moment's notice. It's very childlike. It's what you feed, you end up kind of becoming. So the more that they feed the communication within their team, the more that they feed the playfulness within their team, especially today with that 5th house Sun, Moon, and Mercury conjunction in the 5th house of today's game, you're going to see just more creativity. And this has to be their signatures, that they become unbeatable because nobody knows what they're going to do next. That's kind of the vibe with the Gemini Sun being, a 0-degree Gemini Sun as a team. You just never know what they're going to do next. As someone that is ruled by my Gemini Moon, you never know what I'm going to do or say next. It's very much a surprise of what could possibly happen. So going into that 6th house ruled by Mercury, as it is starting at 13 degrees Gemini. Mercury today is in a cazimi with the Sun, and that is in Virgo. And a cazimi is when a planet is in the heart of the Sun, conjunct the Sun. So a Venus cazimi would be the Sun and Venus are conjunct. A Mars cazimi, the Mars and the Sun are conjunct. Mercury cazimi, Mercury and the Sun are conjunct. It just means in the heart of the Sun, cazimi does. So having that Mercury and Sun conjunction ruling over the 6th house, I do think that Virgos are going to be playing very, very loudly today. They're going to be playing their hearts out. Patrick Mahomes specifically, just because the Sun is almost at the same point in his chart where it was when he was born. So it's almost a solar return. That Mercury being conjunct his Sun as well. I think that's going to help break up that South Node energy that's been kind of wrecking Patrick Mahomes' Sun. But looking at that 6th house where the Moon is, it's going to be a lot of talking. There's definitely going to be a lot of yapping in there, and it's going to be a lot of emotional back and forth. Gemini in the last degrees is kind of an insecure area of the degrees and the Sabian symbols. There's also a bankruptcy degree at that 28 degrees of Gemini, and it could be like emotionally bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt. It doesn't always have to be about money. Like talking to boomers, it's like, there's more ways to define success besides financially, but they don't really understand that. And success to some people means, just winning an AFC West title for once, like the Chargers desperately want to. For others, it's winning back-to-back Super Bowls and going to your three-peat and hoping to get one of those, like the Chiefs. There's just different levels for everyone, and some people are going to reach those highs and be the precedent and standard for everyone else, and others are going to hate them for it and just be bitter and let that corrode them at the end. So it's like you got to choose what path you want, right? I walked the path with the Kansas City Chiefs through many, many things. And since the 1990s, I was a conscious Chiefs fan. So it's like I have been through a lot of the years. I haven't been through all of them. My dad's seen every single season just because he was born in 1950. So he's going to see some things. There's so much about this journey that the Chiefs have been on that you just don't know exactly what's next because they're Gemini Sun and they surprise you all the time. And it's been that way my whole life. Even when they've been terrible, they've come out with some surprise wins over big teams. And I'm like, where did that come from? So today, being at the home team and not traveling is definitely going to be helpful for their physical health. I do think they're going to have a lot more success since they have that empty sixth house for today's game. Going into the seventh house, they do have their north node with Jupiter that has been there for a minute now, and it's just getting in a tighter and tighter conjunction, which I think is really cool to see. This should be showing off on where the Chiefs are going next. So with the North Node in Cancer, I do feel like the Chiefs are going to be more well known for what they do for the community and like how their impact is felt in the community more than anything else. I think they're going to start with more projects for uniting Kansas City and for bettering Kansas City. If they're going to be asking for a stadium, they're going to be, equally funding other projects that help maybe homeless veterans in Kansas City. It's very much taking care of others by taking care of yourself. And the more Kansas City keeps winning, the more that our city improves, right? So their North Node in Cancer is very loud in their chart, and they've been working into it for quite some time. And having Jupiter visit it is very much a boost to their legacy and a boost to their overall well-being. So I'm excited to see how the Chiefs start to support and take care of their players and community a little bit better with that transit. But for today, it'll just be a boost for their drive and also for their destiny, which is, yes, the cookie cutter way of describing the North Node. And for sports astrology, it works. So thanks. Today's Mars in the 8th house for the Chiefs, as well as their Uranus, Pluto, and a lot of asteroids, is very crucial, seeming how that Mars and Venus are conjunct. And that's exciting to see, as that Mars-Venus conjunction is the ultimate marriage placement. So today's game is hopefully a marriage and heartfelt emotion and burst of energy that help shift the landscape of the game. The 8th house for me is also the house of gambling, house of Vegas, house of odds, and other people's money. So, the Chiefs might be here to boost that with Mars in the 8th house. Going to the 9th house, which is where we see the part of fortune and Mars for today's game, and that Mars right on the MC. The Chiefs do not have anything. I do feel like that is the house that defines the away team, as it's the 9th house travel team, and how they show up. Going into that 10th house and seeing Neptune there, the Chiefs might have a dark cloud, I guess, halting people to see like what they're actually made out of this year. And, with Neptune in Scorpio, there can be some tension in the root chakra and some things that, hey, this is only ours to lose. This isn't ours to win. This is only ours to lose. It's already won in their minds. So the only thing that you can do is take a step backwards and not show up properly and not give it your all, because you're kind of convinced that the dark cloud is something that is actually going to get to you. I don't know if that made sense, but it did in my mind. So woohoo for me. Going into that 11th house ruled by Mars and seeing Mars in Libra, I don't have to tell you that Mars in Libra is incredibly violent. We've seen it this week, and we've seen the energy of Mars and Libra opposing Chiron and Aries. It's been a rough week, energy speaking, and I think a lot of people are realizing that even though Mars is not exactly happy in Libra, just like the sun has fallen in Libra, Mars is just like very cutthroat and very, very powerful energy there. So I do think it's going to be a very spicy game. I think it's going to be a very powerful physically game. I think it's going to be a lot of scrappy energy, which is kind of what I feel like Mars and Libra. My best friend has Mars retrograde in Libra and is one of the toughest women physically that I've ever met, but she's also 5 feet tall. So she'll get mad at me because she's not actually 5 feet tall, but like very little, very spicy energy of like, I'm gonna gut you if you look at my friend wrong or if you cross my path. It's wild, but I've just known that Mars and Libra is not like, oh, performative beauty standards and improving your beauty. It's not just that simple. Every planet, especially malefics, have a full story, and it's not just ever the surface one. So I've read a lot of books criticizing modern astrology and how topical it is lately, and I really want to bring a depth to that topicalness if it's possible. You know, people aren't always going to first thing they hear the whole picture, right? They're going to hear bits and pieces of it and they're not supposed to draw them in. My job as an Aries woman is to give the little bits and pieces that can initiate that little spark, right? I'm not here to give you sermons. I'm not here to tell you guys the water's poisoned and the sun's killing us all because they switched it out with a nuclear sun 10 years ago. Like, I'm not going to do all that. I will tell you that we all have the choices that we get to make this lifetime, and that's kind of the power of our choices, is like what we give life to, you know, or what we give our focus to, we give life to. And if you want to focus on the world being a fearful, scary place, then that's what you're going to give life to. And I try to choose on focusing on the world being a fun and magical place, and that's what I give life to. So speaking of fun and magic, we're going to look at that tri-reel before I get going on any more tangents, just because I wanted to talk about Neptune. The reason I didn't go into the 11th house or 12th house for the Chiefs is because it is empty, and I wanted to get to the tri-reel showing the numbers to look for and all of that. I do actually have a notepad, and I don't have to write on my one sheet of 4,000 numbers that are already on there. So you guys will get to see me do my live work here on this chart. So go ahead and take a minute to look at that chart, and I will take a minute to go over what I think is going to stick out, and we'll go from there. All right. I can't wait for you guys to see this math that I did. Oh my gosh. I definitely should have talked less through high school math. I think I would have been a much better person if I wouldn't have graduated with a 60.1% in algebra 2. But, you know, I'm doing my best, right? And don't even get me started on college math. I tried algebra and I'm like, this is another language. Thank you so much for believing that I could speak this, but you are very wrong and I do not wish to continue. Like, please make it stop. Okay, so I went over a little bit of the um, numbers to look for, and I didn't do any of the signs to watch. We're going to do that live, and I will just keep track of them myself. I mean, the first one we're going to have to say is Capricorn, right? Because, well, Capricorn is kicking off right there at the top with that rising at that 9 o'clock angle. So we're going to say Capricorn is on the list of signs to watch for. We're also going to go ahead and go with Gemini. And yes, we're going through the chart. So if you want to follow along on the inside, I do think Cancer energy is going to be loud on the Eagles, and that emotional transformation and core vitality of the Eagles. Very much looking forward to dominating someone in that seventh house. They are trying very much to flip the narrative or to dominate that narrative. And I kind of look forward to that because there's going to be a lot of vocal and a lot of communication that's going to be happening on both sides. And we're going to be able to see a lot of that today. So a lot of yapping happening. I'm also going to say that today that Leo is going to be loud as well, since we do have that Venus and Leo in the 8th house. Virgo energy is going to be complicated just with, having so many of, just like, sorry, my sound was coming a little bit all over the place, but having so many of the, I guess, the Virgo placements with the South Node and the Mercury Cazimi, the Cazimi energy is never just like, oh, this is easy. Or, oh, this is something that people are comfortable with, because the sun and personal placements is not something that everyone is comfortable with. So very much interesting to see how that plays out today. And then we're going into that ninth house where we see the part of fortune, and that being a highlight of Libra, as well as the Mars in Libra, kind of giving that boost to Libras. So very interesting there. I think I'm going to go ahead and say Libra instead of that Virgo energy, for being super poignant today. South Node, Sun, and Mercury, I feel like that's going to be just a burst of energy for Mahomes. I do think that the South Node separating a little bit from his Sun personally, we can see that here in a minute, but it's definitely going to be an interesting one, to say the least. So I have Capricorn, Gemini, Leo, Libra. Give me just 1 second, guys. Okay, so when we have the Sun and the Mercury Cazimi, I do think that's going to highlight the communication side of it, right? So it's not completely just on the side of like combustion, but I do think that's going to highlight communicates, as well as you can see going into that ninth house where Mars is for the Eagles. It's going to be very much a highlight, and it's going to be a very centric point. So I'm going to see how they show out today. I definitely think it's going to be there. It's going to be very much a battle no matter what happens, and it's going to be interesting to watch from the cosmic perspective, because I think I'm stumbling over the energy just because it's so much of what I believe to be something that can be very volatile. And especially, we should just go to Patrick's chart. Let's be real. That's what we've been waiting for, at least what I've been waiting for. Because that's really not that I think what sways the game, but definitely what I think can make things more interesting. So go ahead and take a look at that, and I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry, guys. I did have for some reason, my audio is coming through like my actual monitor too. So I'm just making sure that it's not echoing, and I wanted to go through that. And I also, for some reason, am not getting my YouTube comments. So I see Jess Groove mentioned that I noticed that 10-degree part of fortune. I was like, oh, I bet Travis shows out today. I don't know if you talked about this, but is there any major significance with the start of NFL seasoning happening during eclipse season? Yeah, that's a huge significance. So I think that's why I talked about eclipse season so much at the beginning, because I was like, this is a radical time to be doing anything. I'm trying to get a magazine out right now, and I'm like, damn, this is really difficult. And I'm like, damn, this is really hard to do. How in the world is anybody doing anything physical? It's insane. So this is definitely a very tumultuous time. We saw the NFL games being all over the place with, even them starting on the 4th and 5th and the eclipse happening on the 7th. We're halfway, literally today, halfway between the eclipses, and it's the eclipse window where the next one is going to be on the 21st. So it's going to be another eclipse on another football game. And this one, I hope, is less violent than what the last one brought. Laura Matsu on Twitter shared the book from Derek Appleby's book about eclipses. And, as someone that was born 3 days after 4 days, no, 3 days after a solar eclipse in Pisces. I mean, it's something that I was born with energetic wise. Like I just really and truly embody that eclipse energy. And so eclipse season for me is me coming back to myself. And it just brings me back to myself, whether I want to or not, whether I want to be back with myself or if I want to continue to dissociate and focus on things that are outside of my control. Who knows? Honestly, who knows what happens during eclipse season for people that don't live with that. I do think eclipse season for people who weren't born in eclipse windows or who aren't like heavily lunar people is a little bit more like outside circumstances happening to rattle the area of the chart that the eclipse is happening for you. That area is just supposed to be a little bit more tumultuous and a little bit more aggressive. But honestly, if we wanted to look at the NFL chart, you know, it has a lot of the same energy as Patrick's chart since they were both September 17th, just different years, right? So looking at Patrick's natal chart, this next eclipse is happening conjunct his sun, and that's going to be something that really rattles him awake. Not necessarily like, oh, our quarterback is now a conspiracy theorist, tinfoil person. I'm not talking about that type of awake. It's like he's almost been in this kind of sluggish type of routine, and it's like this energy, this midpoint of the eclipse energy right before his solar return, this could be the supercharged Patrick that we've been looking for, right? I am going to pull up Jalen Hurts' chart too, so don't worry, guys. If you think that I'm only talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, you are wrong. I am talking about everyone today. Or if you think I'm only talking about Patrick Mahomes, like I shared Patrick's public chart. I do have his private chart, his actual birth time, just because it's important for me to clarify that, like, until I have permission to share it, I'm not going to. I have permission from the other Chiefs players to share their charts, so that's why I do. And we'll get to those. But with Jalen Hurts having that Leo sun be at exactly the vertex of today's game, you know, he's part of the Leo showing out. The signs that I do have to watch for, one of them is Leo. Like I said, I didn't put the Virgo energy into that today because I think that Patrick Mahomes plays much better than he did last game. I think he's much more centered. I think he's much more focused. I think he's much more able to adjust. You know, last game he lost one of his core targets. Like he just lost one of his prime targets, and it's Xavier Worthy, and Xavier Worthy's so fast. We saw passes being all over the place, but you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go ahead and add Virgo in there. So that whole Leo, Libra, Virgo energy, all of you guys, all of you can get that. Oh my gosh, Jess was born 2 days after a solar eclipse in Virgo. So yeah, if you go online, I think it's on Twitter, Laura Matsu, she posted the different deacons and what those eclipses bring in and those deacons of each sign. So very interesting post, and very easy to find if you just go to my replies. I think it's one of the last things I reply to. I don't use Twitter as much as I used to, and that's kind of a downfall because I feel like I miss out on so many announcements and things that people are doing, but I also stay so much more sane by not being on there as much. Whew, it's a wild road. But honestly, if you're going to use social media at all, use your discernment and filter what you want to see and then create it, because I've done that with my algorithm. Like my For You page is just a bunch of paintings and artwork and beautiful sentiments and original thoughts and thinking outside the box kind of conversations where, you know, some people's algorithms are just chaos, which is okay too. But mine refuses to be. So limited time on the internet helps out a lot. But going back into Jalen's chart, seeing his sun conjunct the vertex of today's game, I know he's going to show out. I know he's going to be huge. I know he's going to be somebody that is very pivotal for today's game, especially if you have Jalen Hurts props. Definitely go on Jalen Hurts props. I feel like he's going to have a heck of a game, especially with Venus 10 degrees away from his sun, and then Mercury conjunct Venus and his Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus. Jalen Hurts is single-handedly helping me rewrite what Mercury retrograde does in athlete charts. So thank you, Jalen. Just out loud, thanks. Him also having an Aquarius moon is going to be interesting just because the Eagles have an Aquarius moon as well. And I kind of like that synastry for them. I feel like he kind of embodies what the Eagles have always wanted in a quarterback and in a franchise guy. So it's very cool to see. Going into, let's see, yeah, that third house, having his Jupiter retrograde conjunct Saturn retrograde in the third house, this is going to be his game to choose, like, okay, am I going to ground myself? Am I going to be that standing tall, standing down on 10 toes leader with that Pisces Jupiter and Pisces ruling the feet? Am I going to be that transformational shift in this game? He's going to make all the difference with communication. So he sets the tone. It's going to be very much up to him to set that pace for the rest of his team. So interesting and very, very cool to see with Jalen's chart. What else? Oh, I was going to just do the numbers to watch for and things while I remember to, before we get into fun charts, because fun charts happen and I'm just like, what? Let's focus on that instead. The numbers to watch for today's game are going to be 1, 8, 10, 18, 29, 40, 54, and 87. Very excited about these numbers. I did the math myself. You can just see my terrible chicken scratch math happening over there, which I happen to love. These signs to watch for are going to be Capricorn, Gemini, Leo, Libra, and Virgo. I would throw a Scorpio in there too, but I did last time and I'm good with this. I think Scorpio being in that 10th and 11th house, everyone's going to be a little bit Martian today. It's a game. Like Kate Astro Castalia, I think I'm pronouncing that right, on Twitter. Kate told me that a football game chart is a war chart, and that's what it is. So, heading off to battle, these two teams have a lot to face together, and I think it's going to be a very physical matchup. I do see the Chiefs winning, and that could be by 9 points today. And that's what I'm hoping happens, just because it'd be nice as a Chiefs fan. But I am going to go ahead and equate that moon, the 2 and the 7, add that together, the 9. I do see the Chiefs pulling off this victory against the Eagles. And that's how I feel. So that's what we're going to go with. So there's the little recap. Going into, we looked at Patrick's chart. So if you want to look at that real quick, looked at Patrick's chart. His Mars and Scorpio there in that 10th house is going to be very loud and very prominent. If you thought he was competitive before, wait till you see this. His North Node is on the MC today, as well as Mars and Libra conjunct that North Node. The last game we saw we saw his Mercury conjunct Mars exactly, and the man was running his ass off. So if you see him today doing the exact same, I would not be surprised. A lot of this game I feel like is going to be on Patrick, and he's going to take it personally to carry this game and get the win. His moon, he's almost to his lunar return, which will be happening later today, or I think overnight maybe. So we're definitely going to see that. And how are you calculating these numbers again? Yes, the degrees, and then I add them up. Like today, I was adding 27 together to get that 54, and then 29, 29 to get that 87. So there's just a lot of things that I think are happening on the chart that I can be like, okay, this tells me a number, but I'm pretty okay with the method that I used so far. Last game, looking at the charts and seeing that 1 was going to be huge. And then I think I said another number. I can't remember what it was now, but then also 95, and they all played huge pivotal roles in the game for different reasons. 95 had a lot of tumultuous parts at the end with, Drew Tranquil yelling at Chris Jones, and that being just a moment where it's like, yeah, we were very vocal, very loud in our locker room, and that's just what happened. Let's go ahead and look at some of the fun charts that I have that are the exact charts Today, Carson Steele, the fullback for the Kansas City Chiefs, has his Chiron in Capricorn right on that rising, and very interesting in that 12th house. So we're going to see today possibly some wounds being healed for Carson. Maybe he's helping heal the fullback movement and making fullbacks great again and that whole thing. His son is also in Libra, and it's on the MC for today's game, which is why I feel like Libras are going to be having a big game. And Carson Steele too. I did say 40 is going to be big. We might as well add 42 in there just because he's got a lot going on this game. His exalted moon is also exactly trine the rising for today's game, so that's a good indicator. His Saturn retrograde at the bankrupt degree that I talked about of Gemini, that 28 degrees, is also conjunct the moon today. So he might be able to show out physical discipline and physical lessons. And it's definitely kind of something that I feel like Saturn and moon in a birth chart, having a moon visiting your Saturn, or a transit chart, it's not a birth chart, or having moon and Saturn aspects in your own birth chart can be kind of emotionally limiting. I do think having the moon transiting your Saturn can be like, oh, okay, things might not be all blurry and they can be a little bit of shining light or showing some joy, especially on a Saturn at that 28th degree of Gemini, which can be a pretty emotionally intense degree to work with. Going into the 8th house, seeing his Jupiter is conjunct the vertex and also 9 degrees away from Venus today. That could be a very big sign for him. Let's see where else. His part of fortune is exactly the same as the part of fortune for today's game. So I definitely think that there can be some signs of Carson Steele showing out today, as well as his Mercury being there. So yeah, I think there's a lot of movement there with Carson Steele. He's going to have a good game today. Let's look at Noah Gray, the tight end, along with Travis Kelce for today's game. Until I have Travis's birth time and allowed to share it on my show, I'm probably going to just use my generic knowledge of Travis's chart to go ahead and figure out what's happening for him. But when I have an actual exact time, I absolutely love diving into their charts more. So here's an example of the exact time with Noah Gray. He knew it down to 11:54 p.m. He was almost a May 1st baby, but he wasn't. His ascendant is Capricorn rising, so he is naturally Capricorn rising, which could also fall into he's going to have a big game today just because, hey, Capricorn rising energy is loud. Having his Mercury and Jupiter conjunction there in the 3rd house, I think brings maybe some communication or some mental positivity to the team, or some childlike energy or some impulsiveness. And maybe he makes a quick play and saves the play and gets a touchdown. Who knows? Him having his part of fortune around today's moon in the 6th house, I do think he's going to have a very physical game. His Venus is also there in the 6th house of today's game. So physicality, especially with maybe blocking or using his hands a lot. So even catching the ball, that's also what they do. I sometimes say things and I'm like, duh, Gracey, of course they're going to be using their hands. Of course their hands are going to be important today. So I like understanding how I read charts as well, and like how it's different for sports astrology than it is for like a birth chart reading I'd be doing. But Noah Gray's, obviously his planets are on the outer wheel. So continuing on up into the 7th house, he does have his vertex and Vesta in the 7th house of today's game, so emotionally vocal as well. I do think he's going to be a good heart center and like a good leader for today's game in some ways. Today's vertex is also loosely conjunct his vertex, so that's exciting to have vertex synastry with the game because he could be a spiritual gift to the Chiefs as well. He has his Mars conjunct the MC, but his Mars is retrograde, so it might take him a little bit to warm up, but then in the later half of the game, he shows out. His moon in the 10th house, his emotions and ferocity could be on display today with moon and Scorpio. I think that's a very powerful placement to have. And that means he has moon Mars synastry with Patrick. So that just means explosiveness on the field. So I'm here for it. But yeah, I think if we just go back to looking at the game, I'm very excited. Like I said, the Chiefs win by 9 today, and it's going to be a hard fought game. And, the Eagles could very easily show up, with that ninth house, with their Mars being there. I do think that they get a little bit exhausted from the Chiefs revamp that they have been going through. Losing the opening game on an international stage probably did a little something to the Chiefs' pride. I'm not saying that Mars and Leo is a pride-driven placement, but I will say that it doesn't like losing very much. Reading the chat, yes, 3 planets are 1 degree. Yes, it's been coming through. Can you repeat them again? Let's see. 1, 8, 10, 18, 29, 40, 42, 54, and 87. So very much loud today. And then the signs to watch for are Capricorn, Gemini, Leo, Libra, and Virgo. So with all that being said, with all that yapping being done, my shows are getting shorter. I will say that. Like that last one being an hour and like 40 minutes. Like at the end, it started cutting off on Twitter, so the full video didn't even post. I'm just hoping that since we are out of that Mercury shadow of any sort, maybe we can get better technology functioning and all of that happening. But today has been once again a really fun collaborative effort with all of you, and with doing this research literally not like live on the show, looking into a lot of the things that I did. The game is very much up in the air. I didn't talk about the degrees of the rising, but I can since I have it pulled up. It's very much about joining together for a journey, doing a war dance, or choosing to remain calm and carry on, and then going into a dark path and something that you might not know, but it's a new path forward. So Capricorn 4 degrees, which is known as the karmic degree, so the exact degree of this rising, is represented by a group of people entering a canoe for a journey by water. It's an emotional discovery degree. It's very much about embarking on a collaborative effort or group effort and cooperation and coordination. So it's not just going to be one person winning the game, even though Capricorn rising very much indicates solitude and a solo type adventure, just because, Capricorn likes to do things alone. That 4 degree is the degree of Cancer. So it's a very much an emotional type of journey that they're going on. Coming into Arrowhead is never easy. We'll put it that way. The 5th degree of Capricorn, which is the truth degree to this rising, is Indians, some rowing a canoe while others are dancing a war dance. This is not a politically correct, up-to-date book. This is, I think, published in the 80s. So the channeled symbols were channeled in 1925, so 100 years ago. So these, while most people would call them Native Americans, Indians is what is in the sapien symbols. So once again, just letting you guys know that I'm not just trying to outwardly be ignorant. This is very much a pattern of like the 5th degree of Capricorn, and we'll talk about this when we get to the descendant degree. The 4th degree Capricorn is all about that Cancerian feeling. The 5th degree is very much Leo degree, ruled by Leo since the 5th house, Leo, and then that's how degree theory works. You just keep going around every 12. So Leo degrees are 5 degrees, 17 degrees, 29 degrees. And some people are just going to like put their head down and get the job done is what this is kind of representing. Other people, this is personal. This is deeply personal, and they're going to be showing all their colors and showing all their ammunition and their energy up front. The solution degree is 6 degrees Capricorn, and that is 10 logs lie under an archway leading to darker woods. This is skills and resources that we have put away that help us enhance our ability to cope with the present and help us in the future. These things represented by the logs often need to be stored somewhere. We usually store things out of the way and in a place that is least used. It's all about what could block your path now that you're at the archway leading to darker woods. The trip may be rewarding, only time will tell. Very eerie, very ominous. Fear of the untrodden path. So today's game is all about, going on a journey by water, going with the flow, and then choosing a path, whether you're going to be dancing a war dance or you're going to be rowing a canoe and going with the flow. It's like it's literally up to you, and you choose your own adventure when you put your energy out into the world. And that's kind of what we talked about when we first started this live stream and talking about the current climate and ongoing ups and downs of the times we live in. So going into the karmic degree of the descendant, which is 4 degrees Cancer, this is some of my most researched degrees in the zodiac. So just wanted to point that out. The reason I say today is going to be petty and vocal and catty and argumentative is because the 7th house of others is ruled, it starts at 4 degrees Cancer, which is a cat arguing with a mouse. Very poignant degree for argumentative tension, for people just wanting to argue for the sake of arguing, for going back and forth. Also is along the line of bullying with this degree, just aggressive and action-based energy. And then you go into the 5th degree, which is the truth degree of this placement, which is 4 degrees Cancer. 4 degrees is the exact degree, and that's the karmic degree. 5 degrees is the truth degree, because that's the rounded up degree. And 6 degrees Cancer is the solution degree, and that's the one following the truth degree. So 5 degrees Cancer is the train wreck degree, and that is at a railroad crossing, an automobile is wrecked by a train. It's a need for caution. It's a need for proceed cautiously, use discernment and judgment when moving ahead. There's a lot of times that people can get physical and really in somebody else's face, and they're going to have to choose what is best for their actions moving forward. And recklessness is often a big theme of this degree, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The 6th degree, which is the solution degree to this placement, the descendant here, is 6 degrees Cancer. In spring, game birds are feathering their nest. So this is kind of funny because it says, in your situation, endeavor to feel comfortable and right at home. However, remember that security may only be temporary. Be careful not to become too complacent, but ensure that you aren't frightened at any sudden surprises or moved. Just literally saying be prepared. So the team that's better prepared today, the team that communicates better, and the team that uses their heart center more is going to be victorious today. And only time and actions outside of my own can determine how that is going to play out. So I will not continue to rag on about the degrees, even though I could talk about them for hours. If you are curious about the things that I was talking about just now and want to know more, this workbook, the Sabian Symbols workbook, is available on my website. It breaks down how to use the Sabian symbols, the more about Elsie Wheeler, the channel of the Sabian Symbols. Can put your astrology in the workbook. This is available for download. You can print it off if you want to. I made it easy to print for a reason. It goes through each and every part of your chart. Not each and every. I did not include the North Node and South Node on here, but you can easily do your own research, create your own journal, and write it down. But it goes through each and every placement, your sun, observations and notes on the sun of the symbols or more. Moon has all that stuff in there. My next magazine will be coming out on September 22nd. That is edited by the lovely Mariah. If you guys don't already know about Mariah, she is an amazing writer and has even authored a book called the Guidebook to the Goddess, the Godbook to the Goddess, the Guidebook to the Goddess. There's Mariah and Ruben there at the bottom. And knowing that there's so much about having like all this free energy and this free information and all this joy and love poured into a magazine that I then give you guys back for free. It's like, I pour a lot of my heart and soul, not into social media posts, but into actual feasible projects. And it's because social media is like a snow globe of information, and you sometimes get seen, you sometimes get heard, but when there's searchable articles, there's searchable content that also helps with my website and everything. So I try to put everything back in its place and only give to social media what I want to give, and the rest can be found on my website. So I really appreciate you guys for supporting me in all the different ways you do. There's so much to be said and learned about astrology, and especially this area where sports astrology is something that not many people are doing. Like I say, I always give credit to Andrea Malice, Virgo in Service, for doing the Lord's work with her sports astrology over the years and helping people see that athletes and the stars are directly linked. And we all are directly linked to the stars, and we all have this ability to know our magic and to understand our magic a little bit better if you dare to think outside the box. And that's what I do each and every day. No matter where I am, no matter what industry it is, I am always thinking outside the box, new ways to do things, new ways to approach old ancient things like astrology and the art form of astrology, for example, new ways to relay my information to you. I've been putting out guidebooks and all sorts of free content for years. That's because each and every day I am usually occupied in my real world, moving and grooving and doing things in real time. I am the caretaker of not only my father, but my two beautiful children, help run my household. I'm healing my own injuries from the past where I wasn't able to rest as much. And I'm working on so many things myself personally in the background that is going to bring years and years of income as well as insight for myself. And I just love what I do. Like, that is something that I hope comes through in each of my broadcasts and each of my live streams, that I genuinely love what I do. I also genuinely have a speech impediment and sometimes it flares up, so my apologies, but I genuinely love what I do for all the right reasons, right? I get to learn more about myself. I get to learn more about how others work together and how I can be more understanding of other placements and see where these things can kind of impact my life, and how certain people with certain energies might get me ruffled in all the wrong ways, but that's a chance for me to grow myself personally. There's so much that can be done with astrology, as well as understanding the relationships between you and your favorite restaurant, your favorite sports team, your favorite uncle, your favorite book. Everything that you can think of, astrology can show you the connections to. And if we dare to think of a world where we're all connected and we're all the same and we're all part of the human race, that's where we can get back to. That's where we can be truly united instead of this divided, angry, hate-filled rhetoric. I really do believe there's been a shift in consciousness. There's been a lot of people revealing themselves to be a lot more hate-filled than I had hoped for. And if you're one of those people, then yeah, I don't want anything to do with you. I have enough in my life that is limiting and filled with ignorance, living in the Bible Belt. Okay. So I don't need any more people that come in and want to cheer on someone losing their life. That's not where I'm going. That's not where I feel like people should be going. And that's my own personal opinion. I think we can have healthy conversations and keep open minds and realize that we're all working towards the same goal, which is not paying taxes ever again. Right? Like, why are we doing this? We could just be chilling on rocks and hanging out with beautiful flowers and enjoying the fruit and working with the land and living in our own little houses and knowing that energy is free and all these fun, amazing things, talking to the crows every day, being able to get therapy from Mother Nature and sitting under a tree instead of talking to Chat GPT. You literally get to choose what you put your energy towards this lifetime. And I choose to pour back into authentic and real relationships with people that I value and love and respect. And that's it. And that's my simple plan, is to stay focused on the things that I love and share the things that I love and share my love with others as much as possible while pouring that love back into myself as well. So if you're along the same lines and enjoy what I do, I really appreciate what you've been doing by supporting me, by watching this channel. Interacting with the show is amazing. There's just so much that we can do as human beings, that we are more powerful than we give ourselves credit. And there's time to spend with all of the things in nature and learn from them: the air, the wind, the earth, the fire of nature, the spark that lives within all of us, the water. Water's intelligence. Air is intelligent. Earth is intelligent. Fire is intelligent. Like, it's all part of this amazing elemental spirit that we live here in the earth. We might not all live in the United States like I do. We might not all live in the Bible Belt like I do, but we all live on planet Earth. And to see more people waking up to the beauty and the wonder of the skies instead of being fearful and trying to control what narrative is out there in this world, the better. Look up to the skies and smile. Look up to the skies and know that it's all written in the stars and you don't need to stress about a single thing. Trying to control it is getting out of flow. And while Saturn is in Pisces for this last little bit until February 2026, let's just remember that flowing is crucial. Literally all we're meant to do right now is be in flow with our dreams, our passions, put it out there, see what comes back in return. But you're not going to get anywhere if you don't share your visions, your creativity, your talents, your voice, what you have to say. It's all important. And if you have the ability to be forward facing and on camera and speak your truth in live time, like I do, and like a few of my friends that are also creatives do, awesome. If you can take 1 hour a week just to write in a journal and to be like, okay, these are all the things that went right this week, and focus on those things. If you can tell yourself at night, hey, something's great is going to happen to me tomorrow, or something great is happening already, or I'm going to be looking forward to this tomorrow because, and it's not anything like, oh, I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow, but you can also hope for that. But it's like, I'm going to have a great day tomorrow because I choose to have a great day. It's talking to yourself. It's the way that you look in the mirror. It's the way that you consume media. It's the way that you listen to music. It's everything. Like, we're all just in this giant vibrational octagon of a planet, right? And it's not like an octagon because it's a shape, but like a fighting octagon. And it's what you're going to choose to fight against. I choose not to fight against fellow humans because some of them are going to align with me wonderfully. Some of them are going to be my best friends. Some of them are going to show and prove to me that magic is real. Some people are simply there to remind me that I'm grateful for my intelligence. I was out at a youth football game last weekend, or a couple weekends ago, and radically changed my mind about how amazing it is to watch youth sports, because we went from flag football to tackle football, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Now I get to experience life at the tackle football level, and I was reminded, like, I'm so grateful I don't have to watch flag football anymore because this is so much more fun. I'm really grateful for each and every advancement I have each year, whether it's I'm watching a better version of the sport that my son plays, or I'm now a better person or better version of myself than I was last year. You know, there's just so much that we can choose to do with our lives, and focusing on the negativity or what's going wrong is not as helpful as you might think. Being aware of the negativity that exists is being aware of the balance, and being aware of the things that are out there that can drain you of your energy, including people that just don't have your interest at heart. And you know your people when you talk with them and you feel energized, and you know your people when you speak with them and you feel more enlightened or more aligned with your purpose. You know your people when you leave talking with them for like 4 hours and you're like, wow, I could keep doing this for 4 more hours. That's when your heart is with the right people. And it doesn't mean you have to like close yourself off to everything. My challenge to myself in the next week is to be as outwardly kind and complimentary and nice to others as humanly possible. I've got a bum knee, and when I'm not able to walk and fully in my strength, I am miserable to be around. I get mad because I can't just go and build a stone wall by myself. I get mad because I can't go and chop down weeds at full strength. Like, I can only do things a little bit at a time, but it's my left knee. And that's my feminine side. And I know that it's time to learn how to receive and rest and, you know, let everything work in my favor. And I think I saw a quote, something like, I've been watering too many gardens. It's time to be watered in return. And it's like, yes, absolutely yes. But the garden I've been watering is my own. So it is time for me to bloom and just enjoy that type of labor. Going into this fall, I'm very excited for the magazine that we do have coming up. Mariah's in the chat. Thank goodness. Anytime Mariah comes in, it's like a breath of fresh air. I think I saw one of our mutuals saying how great Mariah is to bring in like positivity and love towards women. She is always in the comments hyping me up, hyping others up, telling everyone how beautiful they are. That's the type of energy that we need in this world, right? As women, as men, telling people that they are doing great, or wow, that's a really interesting project you're working on, or ooh, I like that shirt, or you've got a great smile, or I like your style, or I like your attitude. There's just so many ways of being kind to others. And I, myself, as an Aries sun ruled by my cat Mars, I can cut people down, no problem. I'm like Zorro. It's no, if you want to argue with me, good fucking luck, right? The only person that can argue with me that just destroys me in arguments every single time is my other half. And I'm like, I don't even bother, because it's like, he's my Zorro that I have to sword fight with. And it's like, okay, cool. We're both really educated and really informed, and we can both argue into corners if we needed to. And that can be certainly something that keeps me on my toes. But literally choosing love and choosing that radical love over any sort of fear, because let's get to the bottom of it. Hatred is just fear. Loathing is just fear. Being afraid of your own shadow gets you nowhere. Integrating your shadow gets you everywhere. And I can't wait for this article to come out that I get to write about going barefoot, because I'm like, connect back to nature by just being barefoot all the time. Everyone in my house wears socks 24/7. It's my dad and I. And I'm like, maybe it's our Pisces North nodes that make us not able to wear socks all day long. But being barefoot and walking around in the ground outside is so healing for you. We have an actual incredible article on Marion Woodman coming out that I'll be doing. And Marion Woodman's a Jungian psychologist that has been incredible over the years to just read her work. I've been reading her quotes for years, but I'm finally sitting down and reading her books, and they've been life-changing. We also have an article on Kedrick that's going to be all about the talisman jewelry and the collection of things that he has created. And Georgina Rose Darling, if you guys follow her on your YouTube or any of her various social media platforms, an incredibly informed goddess of sorts that just has the information from all time just wrapped in her brain. Gemini Mercury is so incredibly fun to listen to and speak with, and we interview her with Living with Purpose. So there's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot coming up, and I think that the timing of this magazine and the timing of fall equinox right after the eclipse on Sunday is going to be an interesting one. We are going into the harvest season. What you did in the summer sets you up for the winter. You go into the harvest, you reap the rewards of what you set out in the spring. It's about living in those cycles and living with those times. So I will continue putting out content around every seasonal shift, hoping that people start getting back in touch with the seasons and stop living so much in the rush of things. Going into the winter, I'm really excited to share our winter solstice issue that'll be coming out that talks about all of that even more. So one season at a time. You are not behind. We are getting to fall equinox, which means we are at the halfway point of the year. We still have winter solstice to get through, and then it'll be spring equinox again, aka Aries season, and we are starting all over. So you are not behind. You are not, missing out. You don't only have 3 months left till the end of the year. You're halfway. We are halfway there. We are almost halfway there, and we're doing it through eclipse season. So you deserve a gold medal, gold star, whatever it is you want to give yourself, and you made it through, and that's all you can do. So hold some compassion for others, hold some space for yourself, and give yourself more credit. Because one of the cards I pulled today, not cards that I pulled, but I have the Sabian symbols written down on note cards just because I'm learning them all and memorizing them all, because that's what I should do as someone who's fluent in Sabian symbols. And this is going to be opposite of the eclipse, right? So the partial solar eclipse in Virgo at 29 degrees Virgo is going to be mirrored by the 29 degrees of Pisces. So I was looking at a couple cards, and one of them was 26 degrees Pisces, and it says, a new moon reveals that it's time for people to go ahead with their different projects. So if you've been waiting on a sign to start the thing, to do the thing, this is a time, I would say, like the 29th of September would be a good time. Like get a week after the fall equinox. That's a good square to that eclipse if that's what you want to do, and start working on a project, or start working on it in silence and just do what is called to you and then launch it on September 29th, or I would say, whenever it feels called to you. But there's nothing wrong with starting things during eclipse season. It's just the energy you put into it and the dedication you put into it is your own choice. So without further ado, I've been talking for 2 whole hours now after saying that I was cutting down my shows to be shorter. So there's that. My 9th house Mercury strikes again. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Gracey with Northern Astrology, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Go Chiefs.